Stop for a second. Everything you have been told about money is a lie. I know that sounds dramatic, but I need you to really hear me. If you believe that getting out of debt is the only way to become rich, you are actually playing the game exactly how the banks want you to play it, and you are losing. I used to think the same way. I thought debt was the enemy. I thought cutting up my credit cards was the height of financial responsibility. But then, I discovered a truth that shook me to my core. The wealthy do not get rich by saving money. They get rich by borrowing it. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly how I shifted my mindset from fearing debt to using it as a powerful lever to build massive wealth, and how you can do the same if you are brave enough to unlearn what you were taught in school. Let us be honest about something right now. We are programmed from a very young age to be good employees and good consumers.
Go to school, get good grades, get a safe job, save your money, and stay out of debt. That is the script. It sounds safe, it feels responsible, but look around. How many people following that script are financially free? How many of them are stressed, living paycheck to paycheck, terrified of a single medical emergency or a layoff? The problem is that the rules of money changed in 1971, and our education system never updated the curriculum. When the United States dollar was taken off the gold standard, money became currency. It became debt. If you are trying to save currency, you are trying to save something that is designed to lose value every single day through inflation. I remember sitting in a small coffee shop, looking at a real estate listing I could not afford. I had this knot in my stomach. I had saved for 3 years, and the price of the house had gone up faster than I could save. That was my wake-up call. I realized that savers are losers.
I know that hurts to hear. My grandmother told me to save for a rainy day. But mathematically, if inflation is running at 5 or 6% and the bank pays you less than 1% interest, your savings are evaporating. You are losing purchasing power. The only way to win is to stop saving your own money and start using other people's money. This is where the concept of good debt versus bad debt changes everything. Most of us only know bad debt. Bad debt is debt you pay for. It is the money you borrow to buy a car that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. It is the credit card balance you ran up buying shoes, electronics, or a vacation you could not afford. That debt takes money out of your pocket every single month. It enslaves you. It forces you to work harder at your job to pay the interest. That is the debt that keeps you poor. And frankly, that is the debt that 95% of the population is drowning in. But there is another kind of debt. Good debt.
Good debt is debt that someone else pays for. This was the light bulb moment for me. If I borrow money to buy an asset, and that asset produces enough cash flow to pay the debt payment, the insurance, the maintenance, and still puts money in my pocket at the end of the month, that is good debt. I am not paying for it. The tenant is paying for it, or the business customer is paying for it. I am using the bank's money to acquire an asset that makes me rich, while the debt itself is being serviced by the revenue that asset generates. Think about the psychological shift that requires. We are wired to fear the word debt. When I signed the papers for my first investment property, my hand was shaking. I was taking on hundreds of thousands of United States dollars in debt. My brain was screaming that this was risky. But let us look at the actual risk. If I use my own savings to buy an asset and things go wrong, I lose my money. If I use the bank's money, my return on investment can be infinite. Let me explain. If I buy a property with zero of my own money, using debt and perhaps a private lender for the down payment, and that property pays me 500 United States dollars a month in net cash flow, what is my return on investment? It is infinite. I have zero money in the deal, yet I am receiving a monthly check. That is the power of leverage. Before we go deeper into the mechanics of how the rich pay less in taxes using debt, I want to ask you a favor. If you are realizing right now that you have been looking at money through the wrong lens, please click the like button below. It helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear this truth. And if you want to commit to changing your financial future, subscribe to the channel. I want you to comment the word leverage down below. Just one word, leverage. It is a signal to your subconscious that you are ready to stop working for money and start making money work for you. Now let us talk about the other massive advantage of debt that nobody talks about: taxes. In many parts of the world, especially in the United States, debt is tax-free. If you work a job, you get taxed on your income. If you sell an asset for a profit, you get taxed on the capital gains. But if you borrow money against an asset, that money flows into your pocket tax-free. This is why the rich get richer. They do not sell their assets, they borrow against them. Imagine you have a commercial building that has appreciated in value. If you sell it, you have to pay a huge chunk of that profit to the government. But if you refinance the building and pull out the equity as a loan, that cash is yours to use, and you pay zero taxes on it because it is debt. And the best part? The interest on that loan is often tax deductible against the income the property generates.
This is why I say that financial intelligence is not about how much money you make, it is about how much money you keep. A person earning $100,000 a year from a salary is working maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year just to pay the government. A person earning $100,000 a year from passive income generated by debt-financed assets might pay zero in taxes legally. The tax code is written to incentivize business owners and investors who provide housing and jobs. When you use debt to buy real estate or expand a business, you are doing exactly what the government wants you to do, so they reward you with tax breaks. I want to address a very real feeling that might be coming up for you right now: fear. When I talk about taking on debt, your amygdala, that ancient part of your brain designed to keep you safe from predators, probably lights up. We have evolved to avoid risk.
But in the modern financial world, the biggest risk is taking no risk. Staying in the safety of a job and a savings account is actually the riskiest position to be in because you have zero control. You are one corporate merger away from unemployment. You are one economic crash away from your pension being wiped out. True security comes from control, and you cannot control the economy, but you can control your assets. Most people are paralyzed because they confuse being broke with being poor. Being broke is a temporary financial condition. Being poor is a state of mind. You can have $0 in your bank account and still be rich if you have a rich mindset and financial education. Conversely, you can win the lottery and have 10 million United States dollars, but if you have a poor mindset, you will eventually lose it all. I have seen it happen time and time again. Money does not make you rich. Financial IQ makes you rich. And a huge part of financial IQ is understanding that debt is a tool, like a chainsaw. If you do not know how to use a chainsaw, you can cut your arm off. That is dangerous. But if you know how to use it, you can clear a forest and build a house. You do not avoid the chainsaw because it is sharp. You learn how to handle it. Let me give you a practical example of how this applies to the average person today. Let us say you have some savings. The old you would keep that in the bank, earning 0.01% interest. The new you, the capitalist you, looks for an opportunity. You find a small rental apartment. The bank says if you put down 20%, they will lend you the other 80%. You use your savings for the down payment. Now, you control an asset worth 100% of the value, but you only used 20% of your own money. The bank's money is doing the heavy lifting. This is called the velocity of money. You do not want your money sitting still. You want it moving, acquiring assets, and then moving on to the next deal. One of the biggest objections I hear is, I cannot do that. I do not have money for a down payment. And this is where the philosophy of asking how can I afford it comes in. Instead of saying I cannot afford it, which shuts down your brain, ask yourself, how can I afford it? Can you find a partner? Can you find a seller who is willing to finance the deal for you? When I did my first deal, I did not have all the money. I had to get creative. I had to look for problems I could solve. People who sell buildings are often tired landlords or people who inherited a property they do not want. If you can solve their problem, the money often follows. The money is not the hardest part. Finding the deal is. Let's relate this to happiness and well-being for a moment. Studies have shown that financial stress is one of the leading causes of divorce and health issues. But interestingly, it is not just the lack of money that causes stress. It is the lack of control. People who feel they are on a treadmill, running faster and faster but getting nowhere, experience profound anxiety. When you start building an asset column, even if it is small at first, you regain a sense of agency over your life.
You realize that you are building a machine that will eventually take care of you. That psychological shift alone reduces cortisol levels and changes your outlook on life. You stop operating from a place of scarcity and start operating from a place of abundance. I want to challenge you, not to go out and buy a building today, but to audit your life for the next 7 days. I want you to look at every single expense you have and classify it. Is this expense making me poorer, or is it a seed for future wealth? And I want you to look at your debt. Do you have bad debt?
If so, make a plan to eliminate it, not just to be debt-free, but so you can clear the decks to take on good debt. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You need a solid foundation. Get rid of the consumer debt that is bleeding you dry, so you can build the credit and the cash flow to take on the investment debt that will set you free. Understand that the bank is selling a product. That product is money. They want to lend it to you. They need to lend it to you to survive. When you walk into a bank with a solid business plan or a great real estate deal, you are not begging for a favor. You are a customer helping them move their inventory. When you realize that you and the bank are partners, the dynamic changes. You stop feeling small. You start negotiating. You realize that the interest rate is just a price, and like any price, it can be negotiated if the deal is good enough. Many people wait for the perfect time to invest.
They say, I will wait until the market crashes, or I will wait until I get a promotion. But the perfect time never comes. While you are waiting, the person who understands leverage is buying. They are making mistakes, yes, but they are learning. In the real world, the person who makes the most mistakes and learns from them wins, not the person who never makes a mistake. School taught us that mistakes are bad. In capitalism, mistakes are tuition. You pay for your education one way or another. You can pay a university 50,000 United States dollars to learn theory, or you can lose 5,000 United States dollars on a deal and learn a lesson you will never forget. I prefer the street smarts. Let us talk about the trap of the high-income profession. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. They often struggle the most with this concept. Why? Because they are smart. They are used to being right. They are used to doing things on their own. But wealth is a team sport.
You need a banker, an accountant, a lawyer, a broker. If you try to do it all yourself to save money, you are thinking like a poor person. A rich person surrounds themselves with people smarter than them. I do not want to be the smartest person in the room. I want my accountant to be smarter than me so she can tell me how to legally minimize my tax exposure. I want my banker to be creative in structuring loans. Stop trying to be the lone wolf. The lone wolf starves in the winter. The pack survives. Think about the currency in your pocket. It is a promissory note. It is an IOU from the government. When you work hard for money, you are trading your finite time, hours of your life you will never get back, for a currency that politicians can print more of whenever they want. Does that trade seem fair to you? You give time, they print numbers. That is a losing game. The only way to exit that game is to convert that currency into real assets as fast as possible.
Real assets are things like gold, silver, real estate, oil, businesses, things that the government cannot just print more of. And the best way to acquire those assets faster than inflation destroys your savings is, you guessed it, debt. If you are still skeptical, I understand. We are undoing decades of conditioning here. It feels safer to just pay off the mortgage on your house and sit tight. But is your house an asset? Robert always says your house is a liability. Why? Because it takes money out of your pocket. Even if you have no mortgage, you have taxes, insurance, repairs. An asset puts money in your pocket. If you move out of your house and rent it out, and the rent covers all expenses and leaves you with profit, suddenly that house transforms from a liability into an asset. It is all about the direction of the cash flow. Cash flow is the bloodstream of financial health. Capital gains, buying low and selling high, is gambling. Cash flow is certainty. When you focus on cash flow, the value of the property matters less. If the market crashes and your property value drops by 20%, but your tenant is still paying the rent and you are still making positive cash flow every month, do you care? Not really. You are not selling. You are holding. In fact, if the market crashes, that is good news for you because now you can buy more assets at a discount using more debt. The rich love market crashes. The poor get wiped out by them. The difference is entirely in how they use debt and how they are positioned. The journey to financial freedom is not merely about the paycheck you earn, but how much you keep and how effectively it works for you. It requires a shift in mindset, moving away from the fear that keeps so many trapped in the rat race and embracing the thrill of building a legacy. Remember, the poor work for money, but the rich make money work for them. This distinction changes everything. You must commit to learning every single day, treating your financial education as the most critical investment of your lifetime. Do not let the noise of the world drown out your inner voice. Start small, perhaps by saving just $50 a month to invest in a real asset. Watch how that discipline transforms your reality. Realize that failure is actually part of the process. If you are afraid of failing, you are effectively afraid of winning. Take control of your future right now. Do not wait for the perfect moment, because it will never come. The power is yours to break the cycle. If this message sparked something within you, think of one special person in your life who needs to hear this truth today. Share this video with them right now. It might be the spark they need to change their life forever.